with its fork toward the ground would be going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, like a white cane feeling the sidewalk, looking for snakes. And then all of a sudden she would stop and she would say, right there was one right there, there was one right there. It was as big around as my arm. And I would say, Mother, when was that? And she would say, when I was about 8 years old. About 3 steps on top of a rock. There were 2 right there. They were right there. They were fighting, and one tried to eat the other one, and then the other one got away, and then it ate the first one. I said, Mother, when was that? I was about 12 years old. To listen to her tell the story, there were snakes on every square foot of that farm. The whole time I was growing up, I never saw a snake out there. When I got to be about junior high school, that's when I knew everything. I got home from school one day and I said to my mother, I said, Mama, we read about you at school today. She said, what are you talking about? I said, you are in the science and health book. She said, really? What's that about? I said, we read about you. You have what is called irrational fear. I shouldn't have said that. She jumped back a step, looked at me, and said, I will tell you about irrational fear. I almost ran. She shook her finger at me and she said, listen to me. Irrational fear is always something somebody else has. When you are scared of something, it doesn't matter what it is. It makes more sense to you than anything in the world, and someday something will teach you that. Well, I got older and older, and all of a sudden I turned 16 and got my driver's license. My parents were not people who were in favor of meaningless, indiscriminate riding around. And so once I had a driver's license, it was very hard for me to ever get hold of the car to go anywhere, but I learned there was one trick that always worked. All I had to do was say to my mother, can I go visit my grandparents? I want to go see whether they're dead. And she would let me go. But even at 16, I loved to go there. My grandmother still thought I was cute. She still thought I was smart. She would still fix me everything to eat, just the way I wanted it to be. I also learned there were different ways you could go getting there or getting back once you had your hands on the car keys. One day I was visiting at my grandparents' house. I was 16. My grandfather and I had walked up above the barn so he could show me some little trees he had been grafting. As we walked back down the dusty dirt road toward the house, all of a sudden, a little snake, a little adolescent training snake, a little black snake, just came right across the road. My granddaddy said, look at that little snake. I'm going to catch him and put him in the barn where he can eat some mice and get fat. And I said to my grandfather, could I have the snake? He said, well, what do you want with the snake? I said, I want to take it to my mama. He looked at me with a smile on his face, and he said, I'll let you have it with one condition. You never tell her I had anything to do with it. And with that promise, the snake was mine. We put the snake in an old feed sack and tied a string around the top of it, put the snake in the trunk of my mother's car, the car I had driven out there. My mother's car at that time was a 1959 Rambler. And with the snake in the back, I drove back home. All the way home, I was thinking about the presentation plan. You see, I didn't actually even